Hey, I wanted to make a quick video showcasing how I tackle locks that I haven't really tried picking before, and to which I do not have a key. So this lock here, it's in a body of an Abus 83 aluminum 40, but the core is different. All right, I got it from somebody and they changed the core. I think it's from like a Master Lock M1 or something like that. It says M1. But I haven't, I don't have the key for it. I haven't tried picking it at all. So I just want to run you through exactly what I'm thinking when I tackle a lock. So usually if it's a more advanced lock, just to save some time, I'm going to go and look online to see what type of pins it has, if it has security pins, how many it can have, what type of security pins, and that'll give me a better idea of the strategies that I will employ to try to pick it. Or I will, if I have the key, I'll look at the key, for example, this key, I'll see how many pins it has, which is not really necessary because I can just count it with the hook inside. But it also lets me see if there are any really high or really low cuts. Like for example, that very last one could be a 0 lift pin or a very low lift pin. So that'll give me a better idea to avoid oversetting that pin in particular. But no key, no nothing. So let's see how many pins it has and whatnot. So first question, top of keyway or bottom of keyway. For me, it really depends on the type of keyway it has, right? Some locks like this Abus 7240, right, has a kind of a paracentric keyway, and then the top of the keyway is a little bit restricted, so most of my top of keyway wrenches won't fit in there. I can fit a couple in there, so I still have picked it both ways, but usually I'll put like bottom of keyway or something just because it's so big to put it in there. Most of the time, it's good to know how to do both. All right, most beginners start with bottom of keyway because you can just put the wrench in there and it'll hang. You could attempt to pick it a million times and it's still gonna be stuck in there because it's literally it's stuck in there. Nothing is gonna take it out unless you use a rake and you'll rake it out by mistake. But top of keyway, you literally have to hold it there, otherwise it'll fall. That's why I don't like top of keyway sometimes, but it does give you better feedback whenever you're tensioning, and you can let go of tension with a little bit more precision as to not drop too many pins. Okay, so for this one in particular, honestly, you could go either way. I'm gonna try top of keyway just because I'm trying to get a little bit better. I don't have the best top of keyway tension tools with me right now. They're in another room. I don't feel like getting up. So usually I'll do it like this, but it's like kind of like twisting on me, and it's probably gonna do that in the middle of the picking, so I'm not gonna do that. So I'm just gonna go slightly more uncomfortable for me, which is the other way around. It's still clockwise. I just gotta do like this instead of here where I'm pushing them like this, where this is way more comfortable for me. But just to avoid any mishaps during the picking, I can just do this. By the way, if you don't have a vise, I strongly recommend you get one. It helps the feel immensely whenever you are picking a lock. All right, so slight tension, very slight. Look, this is no tension. This is slight tension. This is too much tension. So slight tension. As far as the hook, all right, you can look at the keyway. You can see you can't really see the pins right there with the tension, but it's right under the tension wrench. Depending on how big the keyway is, the deeper the hook I'm going to use. So for example, this is a pretty deep hook. It's not the deepest, but it's somewhat deep. I'm probably going to try that. If anything, I'll just change. But actually first, before I start touching it, I'm going to count how many pins there are. So I'm going to go all the way to the back of the keyway, and I'm going to slightly push up on the, or I'm gonna lever it up just to get the tip of it, like scraping along the top side of the keyway. Not too much because you'll get stuck in one of the holes or in between the pins, but very, very light enough so you get slightly caught on that last pin, and then you can start, you know, this, for example, if this is the pin and this is the tip of your hook, you want this to happen. And so you're stuck. And now you very lightly, you pull back. All right, since the tip of the pins are tapered, you want to pull back and it'll do this, right? And if you push back and forth, it should do this. This is what you want to do. This will let you know that you are actually on a pin and not on, say, wording in between the pins. All right, sometimes there are pieces of metals, a metal segment between the pins, right? Such as like right here. Or let's say this is the wording here. And if you try to go back and forth, it'll just go back and forth in a straight line like this, because wording is usually straight. It's not like a pin that's, you know, rounded. So, all right, let's see. So all the way to the back, I'm gonna pull back slightly while levering against the top of the keyway, and I'm snagging on the first one. So let me pull back very lightly. All right, now I'm going back and forth. You can tell, you can literally tell, you can tell from my hook, I'm going up and down, up and down. That's because I'm rubbing against the bottom end of the key pin, and that's the last one. How do I know? Because, all right, I'm going back and forth, and then when I go fourth, I'm obviously at the back of that key pin. Now, if I push forwards more, there's literally nothing there. I'll reach the back of the lock, which lets me know that for sure is the last pin. All right, so let me go back again until I get snagged. All right, snagged there, slightly back. There's the first hill, right? This is the first hill. Gonna go back, and now second hill at 2, 3, 4, and I'm outside the lock. There are 4 pins in this lock. All right, so let's try to open it. So light tension. I'm gonna go all the way to the back. Some people start from the front, that's fine. All right, I'm gonna find the last pin by slightly scrubbing. All right, and I'm gonna do the jiggle test on that last one. All right, some people like to do the jiggle test like this. Some people like to lever. I personally feel that if you do it up and down, like kind of like floating like this, it's a little bit harder to I guess like push against it, especially if it's like if the keyway is pretty high, because you have to like lift it higher and you don't have anything to lever against. So it's a little bit harder to actually reach it sometimes, but it gives you a better feel for it, because you have to use more mechanical force just from your own hands, from your own muscles, and that will give you the best feedback to whether it is actually binding or if it is springy. All right, whereas if you lever like this, so if you lever like this, so you're levering against the metal, so that actually absorbs some of the feedback. So, you know, with that, it is easier to push on a pin, in my opinion, but you're not gonna get the best feedback. Some people can do it, you know, I've done it sometimes too. I just feel like for the jiggle test in specific, it's just easier to go up and down like that, not lever like that. So we'll see. So. All right, so I'm on the last pin. All right, it's springy actually. Springy, yeah, it's springy. Let's go to 3, so I went back. All right, this one does not feel like it's springy. 2, definitely 100% springy. 1, actually no, 1 is springy. So the least springy one Looks like it was 3. So that's the one we're gonna lever against first. All right. So I'm on 3 right now. I'm going to lever. And then I feel like I did a tiny click. It's still hard, so I'm gonna, no. All right, now 3 has become springy. I felt like it not so much clicked, but it like had 3 abrupt movements. Sometimes that can mean that it's a security pin, like some sort of spool or serrated pin, or sometimes that just means that the pin is, maybe like a little grimy and there's a little bit too much friction, so it'll have some abrupt movements. And it'll have to be like several abrupt movements before it actually gets to shear, but it's just a normal pin. It's not a security pin or anything. So for now, I think that that's set. And then let's go back to 4, see how 4 feels. All right, 4 is definitely binding now, so let's, boom, tiny click. It's still binding. Boom, big click. All right, so we just moved the core a lot, so that's good. And now, okay, let's look at 4 again. 4 is springy. One is binding, a tiny click at a 1. Let's check 2. No, 2 is springy. It's gonna have to be 1 for sure. It's just a little binding, so let me check the other ones. Maybe it's a little springy. No, 3 and 4 are springy. Let's do 1 again. Let's do 1. Damn. This is why I don't like these top of the keyway tension tools. I prefer the flat ones, but I don't have any right now. So there, obviously I just lost my progress. No big deal. Now I'm supposed to know the order. I just have a really shit memory. I should have remembered the order, but I don't. So let's start over real quick. So we're gonna go back to keyway. 4 is springy. 3 is binding. 3. All right, 3 is springy. I believe 4 was next. No, 4 is actually. No, 4 is springy. 2 is springy. And 1 is springy. All right, so what could that mean? All 4 pins are springy. All right, I just set a pin, but all 4 are springy. Well, that usually means that I overset the last pin, or one of the last pins that I had set. So I'm going to slightly back off tension. Let's see if you can hear the click. There. That's a click. So I probably overset 3. Now let's go back to 4. 4 springy. All right, 3 is binding, so very tiny. I don't want to overset it again, so very tiny click. All right, now let's see 4 again. No, 4 is still springy. 3. No, 3 was still binding, so let's do 1 more. Okay, little click. Let's try 4. right, 4 is definitely binding now. That's good. That means we're making progress. I think I might have said it accidentally. Yeah, sometimes that happens when when you have very, very light tension. Sometimes the slightest touch will actually set the pin. So this 4 is really high up there and it's springy, so I'm gonna leave it alone for now. 3 is good. And as far as 2 goes, 2 is springy. Yeah, 1 is binding. There we go. So that's 1. And 2 is binding. Nope, actually not yet. Oh, 4 is binding again. Nope, actually no, it's not. All right, 1 is definitely set. 2 is very springy from the bottom, so it's not set at all. Or it's a low or 0 lift pin. Let's go back to 4. No, 4 is springy for sure. And 3. Alright, let's try now. That was 3 that clicked a tiny bit. Now 4 is binding, so boom. Let's try 1. No, 1 is good. 2. I'm pretty much looking for 2 to be binding, and that I'm pretty sure that at some point in time I've set 1, 3, and 4. 2 is the only one really that I haven't touched. So as soon as I get it binding, which it's binding for sure now, I'm pretty confident that the lock will open now. So, well, you see how the core is moving because I'm slightly touching on 2. Get a deeper hook because I'm levering, but it's not setting, and it's not because I don't have enough tension. So let's get a deeper hook, see if we can set it with that. But it's definitely still binding. There we go. This is much more comfortable. Nope, that was not a click. All right, don't be fooled. That was just me levering, and then it slipped off the pin. All right, that's something that you really have to pay attention to. I'm not gonna say, oh, you should get used to the sound of you slipping off the pin rather than setting the pin, because many of the times it will sound identical. It's just more like, I guess I knew it because I'm used to, tension tool was like, there was counter rotation, and then it sprang back to the same exact location. A lot of times it'll go to a slightly different location. Or the lock will open in this case. I'm pretty sure it's gonna open once I get this pin. set. Just let off counter rotation. Let off some tension. Boom. Here. Open. Fortunately, it doesn't have shackles. It doesn't have a shackle, so no satisfying open. But there we go. Thanks for watching.